sprinkle a little bit of flour over the top of this now that it's rised up. Have it on my fingers so that I can kind of pull it away from the edges. Pretty sticky right now. Just sprinkle a little bit more kind of over the top. I'm not really measuring, I'm just using the scooper to kind of grab a little bit. Get that off my fingers. And I'm just going to kind of fold it over on itself. I'm not doing a hard knead here, just kind of grabbing it, pulling it over, and smooshing it down. And I don't want to over knead this. Another thing you can do, get it plenty floury here. You can kind of take and pull it and tuck it up underneath itself, like this. This side will look like this, that side looks like that. It's another way you can do it. It's really up to you how you want to do it. Once you have it in a kind of a nice little ball, drop it back in your container. And this container is actually from a salad spinner. I just like it because it has a nice big space to work with, and I have a little lid I can put over it so that while I'm proofing it, all I have to do is cover that little tiny bit right there with a moist paper towel, and it proofs really nice. Now this is another little trick I'll use just to kind of make it warmer. It's kind of chilly in here right now, so I'm just going to take my little cast iron skillet here, and I'm not going to heat it up real hot. I just want to get it kind of warm, and I don't want it to be hot enough to melt my little plastic container that I'm using to hold my bread dough here. This, like I said, is just a salad spinner that I'm using because it's a nice big thing to work with, but I'll just get it so I can kind of feel a little heat. Then I'll turn that off. And it's warm, but not hot to the touch. And then I'll just take my little thingy, set it on top of that, and then I have my little baker's towel that I use here. Just kind of droop that over it, just to kind of hold in that heat. Make sure that nothing's, going to catch on fire, of course. And then I'll just let that proof and double in size. That's rising. Something I just wanted to kind of point out to you here is what I'm using for I use it for my cutting board and kind of workspace here on top of my counter. This is basically just a piece of flooring tile. It's really durable. You can pretty much beat it with a spoon and it won't break or crack or chip, and it doesn't leave little cut marks in it like the plastic cutting boards do. So it's really easy to sanitize it and really make it a clean work surface. So this is actually half of a floor tile, and it's been, you can see I keep the sharper edge away from me. That's the edge that was cut, and then this is the finished edge here, so there's nothing sharp about it. I got little seeds from my last bread here. But this is just a baker's towel that I use for underneath of it. And here I'm going to actually dump this anyway, so you can see this is the back side of it. It's just a regular tile. You can kind of hear how it clanks there. But this ceramic tile is really nice for work surface and cutting board. And the only reason I have this towel on here is to keep it from scratching up the surface of the countertop. Now, you don't have to butter the pan when you've got one of these kind, but I personally like the extra flavor, and this isn't really what it says on here. I tend to reuse plastic containers rather than buying Tupperware, because these things will last a lifetime. I think I've had this container probably, I don't know, years, but I just put my stick butter in there. But I'll just butter the pan, finish that up, and I'll come back. Okay, so the pan is all buttered, and you know, kind of going back and revisiting this whole container thing, the issue, you know, the fact that I saved the container from 500 years ago and I use it now for butter. I definitely would not recommend ever using any kind of a margarine or anything like that when you're baking or cooking, for frying or anything like that. It always leaves just a horrible residue that is almost impossible to wash off of the pan that you're using, not to mention, you know, all the health effects of it. So anyways, I only use butter. Butter. But anyways, that's ready to go. So now I'm going to take this off of here, and ooh, yes, that has done its job. Here, let's take it over here where I have a little more solid ground to set it on. See if I can do it. Doing things one-handed is always tricky. Oh, look at that. There we go. Oh, it's nice and doubled there. So what I'm going to do is take my flour and flour my workspace one more time. I've only taken it out and kneaded it once. This time, when I knead it, I will put it directly into the baking pan afterwards for the final rise, rather than putting it back in here. So I'm just going to put that there. Let's see if I can use my cupboard here the same way I used to do it. Don't drop that. There we go. And you can see it's not quite as sticky as it was before. Oh, that's nice. You can hear that nice poof it's got going on. And again, we'll just kind of fold it in on itself. You can see those big nice air bubbles. Some people like to pop those. I figure they'll pop in this process here enough, and I kind of like having those big air pockets in my loaf when I slice it. So, and now what I'll do is go back to that kind of roll and tuck thing that I was doing earlier, and I'm going to get this kind of loaf shaped. And if you want, you can always flour your pan too with the butter. I don't really think it's necessary. It leaves kind of a coating of the bread on there that I'm not necessarily for or against, but I'm just going to kind of toss this in there just so I don't have so much of a mess to clean up with the flour later. Good enough. Okay, so now I'm going to take my nice little ball of fluff here, and I'm just going to kind of set it down in there. And we're going to let this rise one last time, and then I'll show you what we do with it from there. So the temperature I want to set the oven at is about 350, and since the oven top will actually start getting warm now that I've got the oven on preheating, I can actually take my little pan and just set it directly on the stove here. Take my little towel and just cover it and just let it rise. So that has risen very nicely. You can see it's filling up the pan pretty good. Sticks out over the top of the pan by quite a bit. So now what I'm going to do is make an egg wash for the, to brush over the top. I don't know if I can find my brush that I use for this because it seems that some of my stuff is still in Denver. So we're just going to improvise. But all I'm going to do for my egg wash, and I use the whole egg, not just the yolk or the white. So I'll just put it into a little container here and give it a nice little whisk. That's pretty good. Oops, excuse me, Riz. And then I'm probably going to make a mess out of this trying to do it one-handed and without a proper brush, but it's okay. We don't really need to have all the things that people think they need to have to do stuff. So I'm just going to kind of coat this over here, and then I will come back as soon as I am done. So using the fork wasn't exactly working, so I wound up just kind of rubbing it around with my fingers. But one of the things you can do with the egg white is you can put seasonings on there. You can sprinkle seeds on there. You can do a number of different things to make it just that much yummier. I'm actually going to just use a little Mrs. Dash and sprinkle that over the top. Gives it a nice little crust. And the egg yolk, the egg wash actually gives it a really nice crust. So the other thing I'm going to do so it doesn't bubble out too much, and you can do this even if you put it on a cookie sheet or something like that, you can make it more of an artisan loaf. Putting it in the loaf pan actually makes it look more like a loaf for like sandwich breads or something like that. So I'm going to take my little knife, and I'm using a serrated knife because it makes it a little better. I'm just going to quickly drag that across the top just to give it a nice little slice. It'll give it a pretty look on top when it's done, plus it allows the baking process to do its thing. Put it in the oven on 350, and let's give it I'm going to go with, whoops, let's try that again. Yep, I got it right. Alright, so 12 minutes. Because we want to check it, it'll be anywhere from 12 to 18 minutes that it needs to cook, but I like to start with the low end and then I can always bump it up rather than burn it. Oh gosh, that smells so good. Now we're going to just let it set and rest. Right there is how you can tell that it's done. Give it a thunk, and if it makes a nice hollow thud, it's done. Ooh, nice and warm, beautiful in every direction.